Alright. Oh, why is YouTube a black screen? Why does this happen all the time? Okay, should be fine. Let me just verify that everything is running correctly on my end. And then we can get started, because why not? Everything's fine. Okay, good. Everything's smooth, I hope. Okay, good. So, I know it's Saturday, but yeah, Saturday is pretty much the only time that I have time for live streams now, unfortunately. But that's fine, I hope that I can get more time in my life at some point. But so, welcome to the 4th Switch Livestream Lecture. So, this is, as you can probably tell from the title, the Glide, which I'm sure that by now this move needs no introduction, because it's one of those first moves that you learn in your Magic career. But for a lot of people, it remains just that, their first move, right? And then eventually people will start learning new slights, and eventually the Glide will be forgotten and tossed aside and all of that stuff, because it's the Glide. Well, why else would you ever use it, right? It's a basic move. You wouldn't ever dare to bother use it, right? So I thought it would just be interesting to revisit the Glide after so many years of just not really using it, of just sort of tossing it aside and just really not paying attention to it, because, well, again, right, after so many years of being in the Magic, after so many years of my Magic career, right, you sort of want to revisit old moves and see how your perspective has changed based on your new experiences and those new teachings that you've received over the course of your career, right? So this is one of those instances where I'm like, okay, I think it might be worth revisiting the Glide now, because it's just something that's just like so far off. That's like, is the Glide really that like is the Glide really that bad, because it's just a beginner move, right? So I just thought it'd be interesting to revisit it. Now we aren't going to be talking about any like big variations on the Glide. We're just going to be focusing on the two handlings of the Glide that we all know and love, but we are going to touch on some other things regarding the Glide, especially changing up the handling a bit and maybe just sort of seeing how what else you can use it for. So yeah, that was a pretty long introduction, but yeah, without further ado, yeah, let's jump into the history of the Glide. So the Glide is undoubtedly one of the oldest moves in all of card history, because like many other moves in card Magic and all of that stuff, the Glide, well, it has its roots in gambling. So the Glide actually came from an old game known as Bassetta or Bassett, so that's an Italian game. So the reason why the Glide actually came from that game was because during a portion of that game, some cards would actually be dealt from the bottom of the deck, right? Which is where the Glide actually came into play. So if you want to keep a card, well, you would just use the Glide, and you could actually just maintain that card on the bottom to keep for yourself. So in a way, it's actually become a second deal for Bassetta, right? So the very first time that the Glide has been mentioned in print is in a very long Italian titled book, so I'm not going to attempt to read it out. I'm going to put the title somewhere in the edited version of the video, but that book was from 1543 by Pietro Aretino. I'm really sorry, I can't Italian, so that is in 1543. And yeah, of course, it was just in the context of being used in the game of Bassetta, but it wasn't taught or anything, right? It was just mentioned. The first time that the Glide has actually been taught and used in a magical context was in the one and only Discovery of Witchcraft back in 1584 by Reginald Scott. So yeah, that was actually the first. Well, considering what we know about the Discovery of Witchcraft, it's really no surprise that the Glide, one of the oldest card moves, has been published in that book, right? So yeah, it's really no surprise that's there. And then pretty much after being published in the Discovery of Witchcraft, well, the Glide has pretty much been published in every fundamental Magic book. And throughout the years, we've seen refinements and variations on the glide because it's just that timeless of a move despite it being a basic or a beginner move, which is why, again, right, it survived all of these years. And I think it's a shame for a lot of beginner magicians to just really toss it aside because it survived all of these years for a reason. So I thought it would be actually worthwhile to actually revisit it and all of that. So yeah. Get rid of my face. Okay. So let's go over the classic glide first. So typically when you do a glide, you actually go from a dealer's grip to an elevated dealer's grip, right? So most books actually tell you to go from a normal dealer's grip to just propping up like so. I'm actually, again, if you've known me for long enough, you would know that I'm actually not the biggest fan of any grip changes, even if it's something as slight as just going from here to here, right? I don't like that. So we're just going to keep it in a regular dealer's grip like so, okay? Now what we're going to do is that throughout the entire process of the glide, we're actually just going to turn your left hand palm down, okay? That's the crux of the glide, okay? And now the face of the deck is going to touch the pad of your right middle finger like so, and you're just going to slightly extend your middle finger like so. You're just going to slightly extend it. And what this does is that this causes this card from just pure friction to just be pushed back like so, okay? So it's just going to touch it and it's going to be kicked back. So underneath of the deck, it's just going to be poop like so, okay? So that's what's happening, okay? And now this exposes the card above of the bottom card like so, which means that now if you actually just relax your index finger and just let the index finger touch the deck, it'll actually just naturally contact the card above of the bottom card like so. Okay, so your middle finger is here, your index finger is here like so, okay? And now just from pure friction, again, when you pull your right hand away, you can just peel away the card below, above of the bottom card like so. So you're just gonna peel away, right? And then you can just grab it with your thumb. You can just pinch the card with your thumb. You can just bring it away like so, okay? And now what you can do is that you can use your index finger to just kick the deck square with the rest of the deck, with the bottom card, right? So you just use your index finger to just kick it, or your right hand can just come over and square up the deck, okay? So that's the square up motion that Roberto Giobbi actually recommends in card college. He just says that your right hand should come over and just square up the deck, okay? So for the pull-up motion, right, of the card above of the bottom card, again, you shouldn't be twisting it, you shouldn't be bending it or anything like that. It should just be a direct pull-out, right? It should just be a straight pull-out. Because if you try and bend it or anything like that, you might actually get a snap, and you don't really want that. So you want this card to just be a straight pull-out, okay? So it should just be parallel with the rest of the deck for the rest of the process, right? Until it clears the deck, okay? So that is the regular glide, right? You just basically push this bottom card backwards, which exposes the card above of it, and then you can just easily extract it with your index finger, okay? So it's just middle finger kicks it back, index finger touches the card above of it, and you can just pull it away, okay? So that is, actually, you know what, I'll do it with a different card, okay? So this will be second from bottom, okay? Middle finger contacts the bottom card, kicks it backwards like so. Index finger contacts the exposed card, takes it out, deals it out or whatever, and then your index finger can just kick the deck and it's square with the bottom card like so, okay? So that is the classic glide. Next, let's go over something that is called the side glide. So this is a concept that was first published in The Magic Wand, volume 29, number 186, back in 1940 by Peter Warlock. So G. Newgard and Frederick Bowie they published the same move. They published the same move in the same year, a bit after Peter Warlock. So they published that in Expert Card Technique. They called it the New Glide, I believe. But yeah, they didn't mention Peter Warlock at all. But it should be mentioned that the move is taught in Expert Card Technique. Okay. So this is essentially the glide, but done in a right hand bill grip. Okay. So instead of having your bill grip sort of hovering above of the deck, you don't really want that. You sort of want it to be slanted towards the right, like so. Because in the moment, it's just going to be the exact same thing as a normal glide, but instead of your right hand, it's going to be your left hand. So your left hand comes over, the middle finger touches the face of this card, and it's just going to kick it off to the right hand side, like so. Okay, that's why you want your right hand to actually be slanted towards the right, because if it's above of the deck, this card will flash, right? And you don't really want that. So you want your right hand to be slanted off to the side, which allows you to hide this card over here. Okay, like so. And now that your middle finger displays this card, you can relax your index finger and you can touch this card above of the bottom card, like so, which means that now your index finger, just using pure friction, can start pulling this card out. Your thumb can then go around it, pinch this card, and you can then extract this card over here. Okay, and then yeah, that's that. And you can just pull it straight out, like so. Your left hand can come over and grab the deck. Okay, so that is the side glide. You're just kicking this card off to the right, your index finger pulls this card out, and there we go, right? So it's the exact same thing as the normal glide, except it's done from a right hand bill grip. Okay, mechanics wise, it's the exact same, except we're doing it from the side. Okay, so that is the side glide. Now, you might notice that because you have to push this card out and then pull this card out, there will be a slight push and then pull motion from the glide, okay, if you do it that way. A simple way to counter this is to just, well, do something that people have done for ages, which is using your left hand to help with that motion, or using your right hand, right? Using whatever hand holds the deck to actually help with that motion, okay? So what you're going to do if you're doing a normal glide, sorry, I'm going to shuffle the deck a bit because it's getting a bit warped. So what we're going to do is that using your left hand, if you just wrap your pinky around the face of this deck, like so, if you just pull it backwards, if you just directly pull your pinky backwards, just from pure friction, you've basically done what the middle finger of the right hand was supposed to do, right? Remember, your middle finger was supposed to kick this card backwards, like so. But under the deck, if you just wrap your pinky around, pull it back, you basically have it done already, right? So if you just turn your hand face down, pull down with your pinky, and then you could just directly pull it out, right? You can just directly pull the card above of the bottom card with no issue, right? So that helps you avoid this weird push and then pull motion. Now, because your pinky is already doing half of the work, you can just pull it straight out, okay? And it's the exact same thing with your bill grip, with the right hand glide, with the side glide, right? Here, you can just wrap your pinky and your ring finger around and just contact the face of the deck, like so. Here, you just pull the card towards the right. You just pull it towards the right, and this side jogs this card, like so, okay? And again, it's hidden underneath of your right hand, like so, right? And from here, your left hand index finger can contact the bottom card, the card above of the bottom card, and then you can then just extract it, like so, okay? So again, it's just a simple pull off to the right, like so, okay? So again, nothing too mechanically difficult. It's just a pull off to the right, and they can just pull this. But just having this simple action done with the hand that's holding the deck means that this avoids the slight weird push-pull motion, because this happens right here, right? There is a slight push-pull motion, which is not great, right? So just the fact that you can just go here and then just pull it out straight away is a great improvement already. So using your pinky or your pinky and middle finger helps a lot. So let's break down the glide. Most people see it as just the glide, but how does it actually function mechanically? If you really think about it, right? And the glide is just about dealing the card above of the bottom card. So if you really want to try and break it down, this means the glide is actually one of two moves. Depending on how you position the deck, the glide can either act as a simple second deal or a Greek deal, right? A Greek deal is dealing the card above of the bottom card. A second deal is dealing a card below of the top card. So if I have the deck face down like so, and I do the glide, I'm basically doing the same thing as a second deal, right? If I have my ace over here, right, and I do the glide, I'm basically doing a second deal. This is the same thing as a second deal, right? I'm doing the same thing as a second deal, but it's just a lot less mechanically interesting, right? Because the glide does the exact same thing. So this is a second deal. It's also a Greek deal because if I have my ace of spades on the bottom deck, right, I can actually just like deal, right? I'm basically just Greek dealing, right? If we really want to break it down, right? So I have my ace of spades on the bottom deck. I'm Greek dealing. It's the world's easiest second deal and Greek deal made into one move, right? So it's really like I think people sort of mistake the glide as like a beginner switch when they don't realize the implications of what the glide actually is, right? It's both a second deal and a Greek deal, but made a lot easier. But there is one fundamental flaw with this move, and that is you have to turn this deck face down, right? You have to turn your palm face down, which is a very weird move because it's very rare for you to actually just suddenly do this and then take a card out, right? When you actually tend to relax your palm like so, it's easier to either put the deck down on the table, right? Or you're just relaxing, right? So there's this motion of turning your palm face down is not typically used to take a card from the bottom, right? It is a distinctly weird motion that is only associated with basically just a glide, right? And so, yeah, it's also a very weird sequence because if you think about it, usually the glide happens after you're done showing a card. So the fact that you have to show a card and then turn the card, like turn the entire deck face down, makes very little sense, right? You have to show the card, turn your entire palm down, and then you have to deal the card out. Very bizarre. Whereas with the double lift or whatever, right? You're showing one card, you're turning one card, and you're turning it back face down, right? This is only applying to one single card. Whereas with the glide, you have to turn your entire hand and deck face down. It's overall a very, very bizarre move. So despite it being the world's easiest second deal and Greek deal, it has that one fundamental flaw. But there are ways to actually circumvent that bizarre flaw. So in this case, what can you actually do to combat that weird motion? So Andrew Frost actually tells you that you can actually do it from a second deal position. So rather than turning your hand face down, what if you just necktie the deck, right? So necktying the deck means that you're actually bringing the deck sort of towards you, right? So rather than bring it face down, you're just going to tilt it towards you. And now, if you just do the glide, like so, right? It's going to act basically as a second deal, right? Except that you're doing a glide, and you don't have that weird palm down motion. You just bring it towards you, and you're just doing the glide, right? Or if you don't want to use your pinky to just pull this card down, you can use your left thumb to just pull this card back to the side, and then your other hand can just deal this card out, right? So you can just use your thumb, pull it to the left side, and then you could just do the glide from that side. Okay, so if you just change the glide from a palm down motion to a tilt up into a second deal position, the glide already looks way better, right? Or you can do this again, right? You can also do it from a spread. So if you pair up this move with a ribbon, so if you really think about it, the side glide, what's actually happening here? You're basically side jogging this card, right? So if you actually spread the deck out, right, you are doing the ribbon spread hideout because you already have the card side jogged, right? So if I have the card face up like so, right, and I spread on top of it, so if I spread the deck relatively straight, right? Sorry, my hand has to go around my tripod, but if I spread the deck relatively straight like so, the deck will hide the side jog card, and this exposes the card above of the bottom card like so, which means that if I take this card over here, right, I can openly take this card from the bottom, and then I could place in the center, but at its core it's still a glide because I'm still doing the same motions. I'm still side jogging this card, and I'm still taking the card above of the side jog card. The only difference is that I'm adding a spread to it, but just the act of having a spread means that I can openly take the bottom card, right? I can openly take the bottom card, and then I could just place it elsewhere. But just the addition of having a spread means that I have this openness to it, and I don't have to do this weird palm down motion. Okay, so if I just do the side jog motion and then a ribbon spread hideout, it's the same move, but it's modified and it just looks better, and you have this convincer of me actually taking the bottom card. Okay, so just doing it from a spread, I think it makes the glide look a lot better. But of course, if you can do it from a spread, you can do it from a fan. So if you have a card side jog like so, and you do a rather tight thumb fan, so it's hidden underneath of the thumb fan like so, right here, I can then just brush away a couple of cards. I can take the card from the bottom of the fan, which is the card above of the side jog card, and then I could just place it elsewhere. Okay, so much like the glide done from a spread, I can also do it from a thumb fan. Okay, so side jog this card, thumb fan here exposes the bottom card, right, when in reality it's just the card above of the glide, above of the side jog card. I can openly take it, and then I can openly insert it elsewhere. Okay, so again, just a spread or a fan already makes the glide look that much better. Okay, and if you really want to think about it, the downs change, which I taught last month, is basically a glide, right? If I have a double side jogged, right, if I have a double side jogged and I pull that top card back and I took the card underneath of it, that's basically a glide, but it's also the downs change. It's basically a glide because I'm pulling the top card back, right? I'm pulling the top card back and I'm taking the card below of it or above of it, right? So the downs change is a glide. So you ever want to do a glide with the addition of a visual retention, right? Because this card remains in full view this entire time. So if I want to do a glide with a visual retention, I can just do the downs change, right? The downs change is basically a glide. Okay, so those are just a couple of handling ideas for the glide to make it look better, right? Just do it from a second deal position, or doing it from a spread with the ribbon spread hideout or the thumb fan, right? Or you can do the downs change. Okay, so those are just a couple of handling ideas to make the glide actually just feel better instead of just having this weird palm down motion. Okay, So here are a couple of applications for the glide. Obviously, you can do it as a switch, right? You can show it as the 8 of spades, or 8 of the diamonds, and then I can just deal the card out, and of course it's the 3 of diamonds. You can do it as a visual non-visual color change, because if it's a switch, then it's a non-visual color change, right? Right, king of spades, 6 of hearts, right? So non-visual color change. You can do it as a force. So if I have my card second from bottom, like so, right? And I want to deal this card out. So if I want to force the ace of spades, right? I can just show, oh, hey, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start dealing cards from the bottom, right? So I'm just going to start dealing cards from the bottom. And whenever you want, just say stop, okay? And of course, I'm just doing the glide repeatedly, right? I'm just doing the glide repeatedly. And then whenever you want, just say stop. Say stop over here, square up the deck with your index finger, and then you could force the ace of spades, okay? So just having a cover card on top and then doing the glide is a great convincer for a glide force, okay? So yeah, that is using the glide as a force along with a cover card. Of course, you can always just do the glide with, you can always do the glide force with just normally, right? But I think having the idea of a convincer just makes it look that much better, okay? Right, so yeah. You can also do the glide in the box, right? So where's the ace of spades? So I have the ace of spades here, right? And I place the deck in the box, and now if my middle finger just kicks this card, backwards. Sorry, let me do it from this side. If the middle finger just kicks this card backwards, like so, right? It just kicks it backwards like so. I can just do the glide, and then I can just seemingly, right? I isolate the deck, right? And I could just do the glide from there. But of course, I'm dealing above of the ace of spades, okay? So having the box changes things a bit, because it's like, okay, look, I'm going to keep it away from my hand, so then you know that there's nothing suspicious going on. But of course, having the box just means that I actually have access to the glide, okay? So you can of course do the glide from the box. You can of course do it as a force from the box as well, okay? And of course, you can also do it as a control or a bottom card retention. So here, just name any card. So 5 of diamonds, you sure? All right, that's fine. 5 of diamonds, and you know what? I just want you to take the bottom card and just place it anywhere in the deck, right? Over here, good. We're gonna square everything up. And of course, it's still in the bottom because we just did a glide with that, okay? So again, it's just a side jog, and then it's just a spread, and you can just take it away, and then you can just slip it elsewhere, okay? So again, that's just a ribbon spread hideout using the glide, with the glide, sorry, and then you can use it as a control. So those are just a couple of applications with the glide, okay? So let's compare the glide to other switches. Now in terms of being compared to other switches, the glide, like I said, is the most similar to the second deal. It happens on top of the deck, and the switch occurs the moment where you take the card, okay? Right? Whereas with the second deal, whereas with the double lift, it occurs the moment that you turn the card back face down. With the top change, it occurs whenever that you want, given that you have the proper context, right? And yeah, assuming that you don't have any sort of handling, assuming that you don't use any of the handling ideas that I described earlier, the glide has a very bizarre context, right? Which is turning the palm face down before taking a card, right? Which, as far as I know, again, it's an action that is only associated with the glide. I don't even think that I've seen a layperson do this, okay? So if you don't change the context of the glide, it just has a very, very bizarre context, right? But if you have it as a second deal, right? If you have it as a ribbon spread hideout, if you have it as a downs change, right? I think that the glide, right? The context of the glide looks just a lot better. So you do have to tweak the context of the glide a bit. But unlike other switches, the glide is drastically simpler and a lot less mechanically difficult. Because if you want, much like a second deal, you can repeat it. So if you just have the card sort of kicked back, you can repeatedly do the glide, right? You can repeatedly do the glide. So it's basically a second deal, right? Unlike the double lift, you can't really do the double lift repeatedly. For the double lift, you have to turn the card face down, turn it face up, and then deal it out. But then this is a single card. You can't repeat the double lift with the same card unless you do a particular add-on, right? So you have to. So the glide is very simple, and you can actually repeat it, right? So if you treat the move like a second deal, and if you have the proper context for it, the glide actually becomes a very, very reliable move, right? Because unlike the double lift, again, you can do it until there's no more cards. Unlike the top change, right? You don't need a particular context. You don't need a good context for the top change to be justified, right? For the glide to be justified, right? The glide can be burned, technically, right? The glide can be burned, right? I'm doing the glide right now. But obviously from this angle, I would much prefer to do it from here, right? But that's not the best angle for the camera right now. But the glide can be burned, right? So the glide at its core can be very, very reliable, assuming that you give it the proper context and the proper care to it, right? I know it's not the most mechanically interesting because it's just kicking one card back and you're just doing this, right? It's so boring, right? But again, the point of magic isn't to have like the most mechanically interesting effect. You can if you're doing it for magicians, but it's for the audience. And if you're looking for a very, very reliable switch that's, well, burnable, and if you change up the context can be very, very good, then why not just use the glide, right? So that is just the glide compared to a couple of other switches. So the glide, well, it's pretty much been published everywhere, right? Card Control by Arthur Buckley, Expert Card Technique by Juno Gar and Frederick Browie, Card College Volume 1, John Armstrong's Free Trick Friday on Murphy's Magic, right? There he has a control variation of the glide. So the glide has been pretty much published everywhere, right? So it's really like there's really no particular resource I can give for it. But if you do want an introduction on a glide-esque move with a side jog, right? Because the side jog adds a visual retention element to the move, you can actually look at the downs change, which again I taught a month back. So the downs change is just this, right? So it's basically a glide, right? The downs change at its core is basically a glide, sort of top changey as well, but you can look at the downs change as well. But otherwise, the glide has been published pretty much everywhere, and you can pretty much learn it everywhere as well. Of course, if you want, I can provide more resources down in the comments below for the glide and its various variations. And yeah, that was the glide. Again, it's a very, very basic move, but it is interesting to see how a couple of just small touches can actually make the move just look and feel better. Again, right? Things like just having it done from a ribbon spread, right? Things like just doing the move from a second deal position, right? So if you just have those tiny little tweaks, it just looks and feels a lot better and becomes a lot more reliable as well, right? Because it's not difficult, it's very simple, and it's basically a second deal or a Greek deal, but without the hours and hours of practice. So if you just decide to treat this move well, it becomes a very, very good move in your toolkit. Now, granted, much like every other magic move, much like every other gimmick or sleight out there, you still need the proper context to pretty much justify this move, right? But of course, so does every other move, right? But I hope that this video actually helped inspire you to actually just try out new stuff with the glide and just sort of give it maybe like a fresh coat of paint, maybe sort of inspire you to revisit the move and just sort of tinker around with it, because it is distinctly something that is simple, but again, with just a few tweaks can be very, very good. Because I think, well, I think right now I'm sort of like in my boomer era where I'm like, I think it's worth revisiting every move that I grew out of, simply because, again, as you mature in your magic career, or as you mature in general, right, things that you sort of didn't like beforehand, well, maybe you like it now, or maybe you still don't like it, but because you matured, you now have the opportunity to revisit this move or this thing from the past with a pair of fresh eyes, right, through a more mature lens. So I think that it's definitely worth revisiting. I think it's definitely worth revisiting every single move out there that you didn't necessarily like beforehand, simply because, well, you're a different person now. So the glide is one of those instances. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up for the glide. Again, I hope that you guys give it a chance. I hope that you guys like take some time to sort of tinker around with it and revisit. But yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope that you guys tinker around with some old moves, and see you guys next time. Yeah, that's it. All right, take care. Bye.